Okay, that was super cool, Nikki. I love this argument. Okay, it's all about Feynman diagrams and chess moves. I actually use my grimoire here. It's all about how you spell things out by entropy. Has really nothing to do with chess. It has to do with 10 to the 32nd Feynman diagrams or entropy setups of soldiers, situation, boot camp models. You know, when we look at these things, they're going to be, let me see if I can show you some Feynman diagrams that work really good offhand. Okay, so here's your standard Feynman diagram. That's going to be new E. Alright, so I need a better one. Here's one who just got the E's. Yeah, up there. So you're going to get a photon, a couple electrons, a positron, an electron, a neutrino, something of that effect. And I know they're not similar, and it's because a game of chess is general relativity. When you decide, I take guerrilla warfare out of tactics, and you just go red coats against blue coats, or the Russian Winter Games, for example, against special forces and special forces, shouldering corners on timelines. For those collisions and those reactions, what is the photon? What is the value inside of there for something that might look like, something like this. Try this game of chess, guys. This is home theory, game theory. As far as chess, you're going to use a lot of mathematical constructs. I use Army Land Nav as my, well, not mine. I actually use Poincaré's conjecture on topology as the, and Hodge's conjecture on topology for the, for my black, or for each queen, I have Sophia Germain, and I have, and I can't remember this Russian STEM teacher's, college teacher's name. Say it's not possible for a young, intelligent, charismatic leader to Maria, yeah, right. On topology, the NP problem is a bishop, Marine combatives as a rook, Nova Strokers as a bishop, Parth G as a or excuse me, not Parth G, Penn's Row, Space Time is a knight, and so on and so forth. As you could use that as a pawn, I could also say E is photon. Remember, those are all theoretical values with 0 weight or 1 weight for the bits and bytes on those things. It's nice when you see guys doing the chess game, but let's talk about a different type of grid topology. NF3 is referring to a chess piece. So this whole game is an 8x8 grid, because I can draw an 8x8 grid in it. It's scale. They can be me? Oh, where am I? I'm somewhere in here. Let me show you another example. Yeah, there you go. There's a pawn on my 300 IQ skid steer. Trolley car, 300 IQ kid from Harvard. As you go through this, you got to go through the checks, right? Check oil, check coolant, check leaks under skid steer, check tires. Because you're going to get checked, and you're going to get checked real good. Just deep in. So we can go through this a lot of different ways about this being a standard formation. That topology from a field grader, we used to tear down stone walls, and we used to palletize them on properties, overgrown stuff, they didn't like it anymore. And so as you go through this material, there's a super symmetry to it. A lot of Euler's numbers, a lot of divergent flow, a lot of Nova Strokers air turbulence particle. We reject your system. If you're not paying attention, you effing should be. Refer to the Declaration of Independence as a reminder. He quotes, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or... At any rate, inside of here, I don't have my other topology book with me, but, you know, essentially this MiG-1 to MiG-2, I know it's a bad example. Well, here's a better one. This is a crypto cipher. It's all Monty Poly'd into a, what do they call it? The monopolist equilibrium. What is it? The conjecture states that a period over which a durable good monopolist is able to make binding commitments diminishes. The monopolist's ability to exert market power diminishes diminishes. Moreover, in the limit as the period of the commitment becomes infinitesimal. And that conjecture actually continues more frequently, but we're still looking at essentially E2, and that's more about lambda. Okay, that's sigma lambda, a black body radiation problem of a big spooky monster underneath this thing right here. Now, I don't care who it is, some kid that does this, that I've seen this before, E2, this would be the first move. This is a pretty comprehensive gambit, say Carl Magnuson putting a move out here comparatively to the regular Karen that posts all bunch of stuff, but they start in the same way, ones and zeros, bits and bytes. Now, obviously, he's moving this in such a way. Sure, not going on. He's moving this in such a way that maybe he's schizo, maybe he's not.
Let's take you back to the second video. In the second video,
you'll get into a lot of manic, bipolar, schizophrenic. What are you thinking? What are you doing? If I do that there, in gambits and real gambits, there is very strong limits to what you can do before Carl Magnuson puts you in the ground. And that's it. So when you get to somebody who's, I think he was a lieutenant commander, they do a lot of mission command videos. They do a lot of OPOR debriefings. And so this is, in lieu of actually getting the sandbox out, the universal sandbox out, I can tell you an idea of Hunter's Prize by looking at that chessboard and watching somebody play. If you think there's a 3-move checkmate, but if you're playing a rookie that makes a lucky move, it's going to burn that off the board. And they start to stretch out about how well that original checkmate starts to turn in, because there's actually a bunch of them that get there. But remember, we're trying to describe it. Take that 3-move checkmate and try to do it after that phase. When you get to 7 moves in, checkmate in 3 moves. You can't get past those gambits because that game has limits. Troop numbers have limits. Budgets have limits. You making $5 million pensions probably got limits as far as what you do and why you retire 3 years from it. Hey, out here, brother, I love it. Thank you for giving me the info. Great news for us. Kind of bad for, well, loose lips sink ships, bro. You know, one of the biggest things when I looked at this was it was a breaking of command. It was a breaking of with the military conduct, code of conduct about handling it, because he could have called. He was given the information. That was the original first move from the Marines command.
This attack first. There has to be a couple moves that are made. So white goes first on the chessboard, which moves the white pawn to d4.
Oh, d4.
Now, black
Queen
will mirror that
gambit
move
here.
with their pawn.
Well, the game is to open up the middle part of the board because you get more power pieces. When you do AI chess programming, to determine how to get the rooks out, because they have a different value and they're not idealized as the same value, man, that thing will screw up your face equation real good. Just Hemingway smashing his face off of here to figure out a program or a gambit. What is E? What is energy? What is a positron? It's a positive direction in which you make the first step. Now, if everybody's agreed with that, that's a Feynman diagram. That's what that kind of determines inside what the system. The idea is here is that you tell me which one the king is, right?
That's symbolic.
You know, that's me and the Reaper right there. That's my
here, because now we're going down the timeline. He's now
that's
made
my
the
home
second
model
post,
for my
which is his
unified
official
field theory.
resignation letter. Now,
Standard
from
model,
that,
molecular
you have to say, okay,
bonds,
there was no chess
standard
move made
model,
there, that's fine.
Jacobian
But
matrices,
around
somewhere in
that
here.
same
Yeah.
day,
And how you play that. So there's not really a structure. Universe,
does
0
make a statement towards General Berger where he says,
to 1.
I understand you're trying
Maybe
to
not even
court-martial
1.
me. And he comes
Right
after
now,
him. And
0
at the end of
to
that post, he mentions the move
forever.
C4.
But
What is
realistically,
critical about
between
this is if he
moves
did
and the
move to
steps,
C4,
that's a specific
he could have
gambit.
been taken down to that
That's a
pawn could have
great
been
gambit.
taken.
You would have
However,
gotten
he made an
farther
attack
just
for a statement
getting
towards
into
the
it.
Commandant of
Just-
the Marine Corps.
just
he deletes it and takes
get
it
into
back.
what the
What if that
fundamental
was
mechanics of
intentional
chess
as a
are,
dumb
and then
move,
N1
and that's why
half
he
it.
took it off?
Calculus,
That would make sense symbolically
calculus,
from
E,
this.
Sigma,
Was that intentional?
energy.
I don't know. Now, in
As
the
far
first
as
newest
how
post
many
I told you, he
combinations
said
and
he
patterns
moves
there
to,
are of
knight to F3.
once you have
Now,
E,
from this,
E
we
can't
don't
equal
have any
E
response
unless it's in
from
the same
the
moment
black
and
side
frame.
or the military government
Right? There's
side
going to
of
be a
this.
decay
So
and
it would be safe
energy
to assume they
housing
would
to
be
get
moved
it
there
to wrap
as
around the
well
Hydron
to
Collider
match that
before
to
it
keep
just
progressing the
vanishes.
game. If there's another move that
And
you
so
can think
that
of,
is
let
a
us know.
very
And
slow,
then on his
limited
latest
way
post that was
to
only
deal
2
with the
days ago,
housing
he finishes that off with
orientation
E3,
of
saying that he would
organizations
not,
of troops.
make any short statements in regards to his lawyers,
Organization
family,
of
requesting that he doesn't.
how do you
But he
classify a
moves
bishop
pawn
from
to
a pawn?
E3,
What's the
which
difference?
would
It's a
only
white piece and a white
reestablish
piece.
the
It's shape.
structure which he's
How about the
already
letter
had.
A,
Is
B,
this him
C,
reaffirming his spot? So
D,
saying,
E, F,
"Do not
G,
believe
H, I, J,
I'm
K, L, M, N, O, P,
still
Q, R,
standing
S,
here. I'm
T, U,
still
V,
playing
W,
the
X, Y, Z,
game."
Z, Y, X,
That
W,
is
V,
what
U,
I
T,
want
S, R,
to
Q,
bring
P, N, M, L,
about
J,
this.
K, I, H,
Where
G,
is the
D, E,
next
F,
move from this chess
CBA.
game? Some questions
That's its
to ask
own
is, why
gambit,
was
easy
this
to remember,
attack of
local
Trumpovsky
code,
already
but
set
what holds
up?
it together?
Who was he playing? Maybe we're just looking into it. If there's any
In
chess
there.
players,
In
please
there,
let us
Carl
know.
Magnuson.
But that is the story of what's unfolding right now with Lieutenant Colonel Scheller.
Then you get into
and where I see
economics,
this
which is
going as
AR
far
Boot
as, like,
Barn.
we're gonna
I
see
give you
some more chess pieces
$300.
move.
Well, I
I don't
make
think
you
we're gonna
get
see
your own
anything risky for quite a
$300
while.
and a
But
$300
please, if you
computer
play
like
chess,
this and
let
get
me know
into
down in the
financing.
comments below. If you have any
That's
other
a
moves or
funsie.
ideas that you think could have taken place
And I make
that
you
are
just
more
grind.
logical, or if
You
there's
can
any
do that.
more
I can.
symbolism that I'm not
At what
catching
point do you
from
become
looking
ready
at all these posts and everything
to
else
go
that goes into
off
this?
on
I
your
appreciate
own
it. Please. I
to
think this is
catch
an interesting source
high and low
as it seems
phases
to get
against
crazier
things
and
that
crazier.
Carl
But you guys like what we do
Magnuson
over
might
this
do
channel,
on the
you can always
chessboard,
support
let
over
alone
at
a general,
patreon.com for special
let alone
versions on top
another
of that.
country's
As
general.
always, you can also go to the YouTube join
There's
button
some
to love
gravity
this video
involved.
as well
I
for
don't want to
special
lie,
versions
XI
here
and
on
Putin.
YouTube. And as always, if you guys have questions about this
You
or
don't
anything
want the
else,
shit
you want to
outside
hit
the
me up on
Kremlin,
Instagram,
right?
Snapchat,
Looks
Twitter,
bad, you
down in
lose
the
the
comments below.
vote.
I love
I'm
you guys.
just saying. Catch you on the next one, Nikki.